Leaky gut is a syndrome where there's a hole in the lining of the gut, and the gut is normally it's a nice continuous lining, and it's like in certain instances, it for whatever reason, usually inflammation is the biggest one. You'll find that it causes an injury to the gut lining, and if the injury recurs again and again and again, eventually it causes a little gap within the gut lining, and when this gap is there, that's when things that shouldn't normally go into the gut is now going in, being absorbed into your bloodstream, and then within the bloodstream it's being taken to different parts of the body. So in terms of symptoms, if you were to have the toxins from the leak going into your brain, you'll find that you'll get a lot of symptoms like depression, feeling down constantly. Migraines is a very, very common one. If it goes into your joints, you'll find that without any injury, you're getting joint aches and pains. If it goes into your skin, you find that you constantly have eczema and just pretty bad skin, and quite frequently you'll find that the skin manifestation is almost always in the similar area. No one really understands why that happens. So this is an example of what it can do, but fact is it can go into any part of your body at all. Quite many people don't actually like the term leaky gut. It sounds a bit faddish, I suppose, is a good way to put it. At the end of the day, you can call it anything you like, but the pathology of it, which means what's wrong with it, is exactly the same. There's an injury and there's a leak, and it's as simple as that. So if you take it back towards what causes the injury, some of the commonest causes is actually allergies to food. When I say it's more a sensitivity to food as opposed to allergy. An allergy is like when you eat something like a prawn, when you know you can't eat a prawn and your lips swell up, your face swells up, you find difficulty in breathing. All of us have heard of incidences like that, and that's an allergy. However, a sensitivity to foods in particular, or intolerances to food, you find that the body actually sends out their less important soldiers. I always call them the C-list soldiers and not the A-listers. A-listers are the one who get sent out when it's a prawn. But C-listers are a bit lazier. They take the time to go and attack, or to protect you rather. And it takes anything from 3-4 hours to a few days to actually come round. So if you think about this quite logically, now for someone, one of the commonest things that people are sensitive to is something like bread, or gluten rather, the gluten which is in anything that has wheat. So for someone who has gluten, but they don't really know it, and that's the biggest problem with leaky gut, is that quite frequently you don't know you have a problem. You wake up in the morning, you have a toast. Okay, what happens? You have all these little soldiers coming and going onto the gut lining. And what does it do? It tries to protect you. It tries to protect the area that's being attacked. In the process of it protecting you, it causes inflammation. What's inflammation? So think about a pimple. Okay, a pimple is an inflammation on your face. So now you have a pimple in the inside lining of your gut. So let's imagine that this little thing is a pimple, okay? So you eat your food, this happens, okay? And it's starting to go down and go down and go down. Come lunchtime, what do? You have a sandwich. More of the soldiers come round. This thing hasn't fully healed it. It goes up again, goes back up again. Okay, come tea time, you have a couple of biscuits. Once again, it contains gluten. Once again, it's going down, but now it's coming back and attacking again. Goes back up again. Come dinner time, you have a pizza or a pasta, something like that. What happens again? This thing is consistently and always swollen. So a very good way of thinking about it is that what do you do if you have a pimple and you keep fiddling around and playing around with it? It gets worse. Exactly same thing is happening here. It is getting worse. At some point, when you're younger, you find that you can handle all of this a lot better. As you grow older, your body's ability to actually maintain this is a lot lesser. Over a period of time, you find that the nice lining of the gut now starts to get really damaged, because in the process of trying to protect you, the inflammatory components actually does make things worse. Just like a pimple, you fiddle around too much with it, you could end up getting a scar. It doesn't happen to everyone, but it could. Same thing happens here. You get a little leak inside the lining of the gut, and through this leak, foods that normally cannot go in because the molecular size of it is too big are now able to go in. So before you know it, you're developing allergies to new types of foods. Now, what can we do if you do have symptoms of leaky gut, which, as I said, could be anything at all? We frequently don't even get people coming in saying that I have leaky gut. It almost never happens. One of the commonest symptoms is tired all the time. You have someone just constantly tired, feeling quite bloated, just not really having the level of energy they have anymore. It's quite often also an accidental finding, unless in late stage cases where for someone who's had leaky gut for a long time, their symptoms then becomes very much like IBS or Crohn's disease, where they then get the bowel kind of symptoms like your abdominal pain and the diarrhea or constipation or a mix of all these symptoms, and sometimes even feeling a little high all the time because of all that fermentation that's going on in your gut. In terms of treatment, the management of it really depends on how severe your leaky gut is. In a really simple, easy case, it's as simple as removing the offending item. You could go for expensive test, which tests for every single thing you could potentially be sensitive to, or you could do the simplest thing of literally doing it yourself at home and just trying to figure out what are the commonest foods that can cause problems. Commonest, of course, being gluten is number one. Dairy is another one. So if you start with these two, and then once you're into it, read on the online. There's a lot about it, and see what else that you can take out. But these two are the biggest of all: lactose and gluten. So once you remove all the offending, that's step number one in managing it, getting rid of the offending item. This one is applies to everybody. Second is then repairing the gut lining. This is a little bit more complicated. In someone who's fairly advanced case, we would do different things to someone who's fairly, who's starter level leaky gut. It's a completely different way of managing. It also depends on if the practitioner suspects that you have an infection, which once again has different management. The third thing you then do is to give back the good bacteria that has now gone away because you have so much an overgrowth of bad bacteria. So this is an extremely simplified version of the three things you can do. In bad cases, you'll find that on the whole, you need the support of either a very, very good nutritionist who has experience in this, or a practitioner who has experience in this. Leaky gut, and once you get the problem under control, which can happen, it's very satisfying. You end up getting a lot of energy, clear skin, none of the symptoms of tiredness anymore. However, to achieve that level, it's a two-way process, or three-way depending on how you do it within your with yourself, the practitioner, and for those who like to go online, the online forums. And you find that if you have this set in place, chances of you getting better is very, very high. Takes a while, but there is a very good chance you will get better.